Kneecap, thank you for joining us on Channel 4 News. Just wanted to start, I suppose, by asking ye why you're in Havana.
We're here as part of a convoy to help bring humanitarian aid to Cuba and to raise awareness about the collective punishment that's being dealt to the Cuban people here by the Trump administration. And there is an embargo, and there has been for a long time here, for over 60 years. But now there's an embargo on oil, which is causing a lot of problems here in Cuba. So we're here to bring awareness. We also bring in humanitarian aid, but also there's 300 kilos of humanitarian aid coming from groups from all around the world.
No. It's from the West America. It's 20 tons. We have personally brought 30 kilos. That we've 300 kilos. Sorry, the numbers are all over the place here. But yeah, so obviously it's also important that we're here due to the fact that Irish and Cuban solidarity is something that goes back a long time. So obviously it's a privilege and an honour to be here, and even under such difficult times, as the Irish understand, you still see the resilience in the Cuban people every day here.
Mm-hmm. And can you give me some sense, just in terms of the local people, the local people you're meeting, like a sense of the sort of hardship they're experiencing as a result of the blockade?
Yeah, we were just walking around this morning there, and you see that even one of the local pharmacies, they're down to the bare bones in their medicines, and there's queues around the corner for people trying to get bread. So the people are hungry as well. And like we know, going back as far as the forced starvation that happened in Ireland, we were supported by the Choctaw people, and the Native Americans, who sent over funds to help people who were starving. So we know the importance of international solidarity, and that's one of the reasons why we're over here now.
Mm-hmm. The reality is that the struggle and the hardship is to do with the embargoes and the sanctions. It's not the inability of the Cuban people to run their own country. It's to do with the embargo that is being placed on them by America, and that's the real issue here, and that's what we're trying to raise awareness about.
But like from the moment you set foot in the place, is it obvious, lads, in terms of the people you're talking to and what you're seeing, the kind of personal effect it's having on people?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a feeling in the air, definitely. But as I said, they're a very resilient people, and I don't think that this is going to get on top of their personalities and their ability to be able to find joy in the day to day. Like, we're bumping into people. For example, we met a woman last night who was asking for as little money as possible, down to the fact that her child hadn't had milk in a few days, and there was no milk in the shops, unfortunately. So they're resorting to having to buy, the powdered, dehydrated milk, and she was absolutely delighted to get the pennies that we had on us for her. So that just goes to show, like, day to day, that these people are struggling to get milk for their children. So it's a real serious state. But as I said, they're very resilient people.
Like the whole kind of power grid. The whole power grid more or less collapsed, I think, on Monday, didn't it? Are the lights back on? Are you seeing utilities back functioning at the minute?
Yeah, the lights are back on at the minute, but for how long, we don't know. There's also there's a lot of issues with running water and stuff. There was no running water in the hotel and stuff today, but we can kind of see what's happening day to day around there. And do you know what I mean? This is again, I think it's something that's been really portrayed in the media, as Mowgli has mentioned there, that this has been made out to be that this is an issue for Cubans running the country, when we all know this is coming down to the embargo that's been here for over 60 years, and now the oil blockade that Trump has placed on top of it now, which makes life almost impossible.
Mm-hmm. Lads, can I quote you? Donald Trump during the week, this is how he put it when he was asked about what next for Cuba. He said, "For me, it would be an honor to take Cuba in some form. Whether I free it or take it, I could do anything I want with it." What do you make of that sentence?
Yeah, we're sitting in the Fidel Castro Center here, and we've just learned a lot of the history of the Cuban people and how they don't lie down, and I'm sure that they'll not lie down to Trump's words and his attacks.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think he's done it? Why do you think he's talking about taking Cuba? Why do you think he's imposed this blockade in the first place?
I think it's to do with the same reason that he's in Iran, and the same reason he took the president of Venezuela is to do with power. It's to do with US imperialism. Again, the people who are suffering here are the women, the children, and the ordinary people of Cuba. He doesn't care about Cuba. He's not trying to free Cuba. He is actually causing suffering of Cuban people here directly.
And just, can I drill into why the Cuban issue like resonates with yourselves as Belfast boys? What is it about that connection in your minds?
It's just, I mean, as Irish people, as Irish people in general, we've always kind of, you know, as being Britain's first colony, we've always kind of understood colonialism. And with that, we've always understood the importance of international solidarity. Cuba, it's not, you know, it's not being spoke about too often right now in the mainstream media. You know, Irish and Cuban solidarity is something that goes back a long time. So it's obviously quite symbolic that we're here representing Ireland also, and trying to raise awareness in any way we can.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it'll make much of a difference?
I mean, that's, again, we're learning. We've just arrived. We're learning. We're seeing whatever possibilities we can do. Obviously, with the fact that we have actively brought, you know, so much aid and, you know, baby formula and hygiene products and stuff that weren't really available. That's making an active difference to people day to day. We can't change the embargo, unfortunately. That's what's going to create real change here, is by lifting an embargo and letting the Cubans live rather than strangling the island.
Lads, I know you're not international diplomats or politicians, right? But I'm interested in whether, can you oppose the blockade, but at the same time call out the Cuban state for like jailing opposition members, curtailing freedom of speech and the press? Can you do both of those things at the same time, and will you?
I think we're here on human grounds. We're here down to the fact that people are being starved of food. They don't have the the adequate medicine and stuff. We're not here to tell Cubans how to run the place. We're just here to provide some kind of relief for the time being. As you say, we're not diplomats. We don't have the ins and outs of this, but we see what's happening. Same in Palestine. It's not necessarily saying we agree with certain states in the Middle East, but whenever you're bombing children from the sky, or in Cuba's situation, forcing them into starvation, then we're going to help in any means possible. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. From a humanitarian standing point, I mean, how can you deny suffering of children and women? I think they try to deflect and talk about other politics and to try and bring us into this other conversation to take away the fact that what is going on here in the actual situation. And we're not politicians, we're not diplomats, but we see people that are suffering, and we see the importance of international solidarity. And that's why we're here. We're musicians, a band, and we're here to try to raise awareness of what's going on here.
The real condemnation needs to be aimed at the people who are creating this, and that's Trump.
But you can do both, right? I mean, it's not just an act of humanitarianism. It is a political act, isn't it? And once you step into that space, I suppose, you know, it's helpful to be thinking about those more complicated questions as well, in terms of calling out Cuba's human rights record, right? You can do both of them, right?
There's a crisis happening at the moment, and we have to. And that's what we're here to focus on. So we're not here to talk about and debate about the politics. We're talking about the humanitarian crisis that's going on at the moment, and that's why we're here, and that's why we're talking to you to raise awareness about that.
I mean, you know, as you said, you know, Liam, you're famous for your support of Gaza and now Cuba. At a broader level, how do you, as a band, like choose the causes that you become involved in? What's the sort of worldview that directs the causes you embrace?
I mean, I suppose it comes down to anti-colonialist issues. You know, I think that's what it comes down to. As Irish people, we are more, you know, more equipped and more, it's more, you know, close to home to support any kind of anti-colonialist effort. Again, as I said, Cuban and Palestinian solidarity is something I grew up with. So now when I'm of an old enough age where I can be aware of these things and I can actually go and have hopefully some kind of effect to help the situation now, that's what I will do. It's something that's close to home as Irish people. Mm-hmm. And again, we can't, again, it's where, as he just said, we are musicians at the end of the day. We're not diplomats. We are not, you know, these incredible political minds. We just see, wrong in the world and use hopefully whatever platform we have to do good. You know.
And if you walk around Belfast and Derry, you're going to see murals of Cubans. You're going to see Fidel Castro. You're going to see Che Guevara in Derry, and You know, so we've had a long history of supporting just causes.
Yeah. I wonder why is Palestine and Cuba so like totemic for the left? Can you explore that thought with me a little more?
Look, I think you're trying to bring us down a road here of debating ideology and a philosophy. All we can say is that when we grew up, we
But
looked
hang
at the
on,
walls.
but what's wrong with that?
But wait there, let me finish this. Let me finish my sentence. Like, we're talking about, we can only learn as we go along, and we know that in Cuba there is a memorial for the hunger strikers that died, the 10 hunger strikers that died in 1981, and so that is the connection there. So we build off these connections that we have. Connections West Belfast, and we're learning. We can't know about everything, but these are things that there is a connection between Palestine and Ireland, and Cuba and Ireland, and all these things. And that's what that's our standing point, and we take it from there. And we learn as we go along. So we can't. And that's all we can do. And we're not experts, but we're here just to raise awareness. And I don't know if you're trying to find a way of like proving the point that we're here to. For whatever reason, but we're here to raise awareness. And I don't know, the left stands with Cuba, with Palestine, with Iran, with any country that suffers under the hands of US imperialism.
Yeah. No, lads, I'm not trying to catch you out here, but like it strikes me, and I've been to some of your gigs, right? So I know that, I know the vibe at the gigs, yeah? And I know it's not the same as the vibe necessarily that you're presenting here. And that's not a criticism, but I'm saying, I suppose, and of course, you're perfectly entitled to use your platform to campaign. But I suppose what I'm getting at is, given the controversy surrounding you, when you say things like, the only good Tory is a dead Tory, kill your MP, when you say up Hamas and up Hezbollah, do you ever stop for a minute and think, we have a responsibility to make sure that this world is a less angrier, polarized place for our young audience? Is that part of the thinking process or not?
Well, that's what we do. We every interview we talk about how we stand against, anti-sectarianism. We grew up in Belfast and Derry. We understand, sectarianism gets you absolutely nowhere.
But
We understand.
Why use that kind of language then, I suppose, Liam?
Well, you're taking sentences out of context, of a wider context out of a concert. So you're taking that and using that now as a means to say we're polarizing. But that is a part of satire of our act, and we have talked about this already. So I don't know why you're trying to take one sentence.
I suppose the question is, though. Go on, sorry.
I think it's important to say as well, that the acts of aggression, they're not coming from us as a band. They're coming from America. They're coming from Britain. The real acts of aggression is the war, the genocide that's happening in Palestine, the embargoes that's happening in Cuba.
It's always asking about what do we condemn ourselves. You're never asking the question of do you condemn bombs that are being dropped in Gaza, or that this embargo taking place, that women are having to ask people on the street for money to buy powdered milk. These are the real questions you should be asking about condemnation, not what happened during a game for 40 minutes.
That's disingenuous, mate. That's not what I'm asking you. What I'm asking you is, do you think a 17-year-old at your gig who's like 8 points in understands the nuance of the things you say?
Of course they do. I don't know. Do you know many 17-year-olds?
I do, yeah.
They're not idiots.
Mm-hmm.
You think they get that?
Yeah, but this has always been a part of our act and part of what we do in satire. And then satire and all these things have been a big part of Irish culture and of Irish music and Irish literature for a long time. This is not a new thing. We didn't come up with this idea of satire. We are just following in the footsteps of people who came before us.
And this opens up a dialogue as well, and avenues they learn and explore new ideas.
Yeah. So, but then let me ask one more question along that line. If at your next gig, somebody satirically throws a Hezbollah flag up on stage, would you wrap yourself in it again, Liam?
I don't pick anything up on stage now.
You know what I'm getting at, though? Would you do it again?
Well, I just answered you.
What?
I don't pick anything up on stage anymore.
Now you're being disingenuous. I mean, what I'm saying is, would you?
Question, I answered it.
So just to be clear, then, Hezbollah flag on stage, you're saying you wouldn't do that again?
I don't lift any flag that comes on stage anymore.
Anymore? Why is that?
Take one guess.
You read the news?
Come on. You know Fane rightly why.
And is that upon advice from your lawyer as opposed to an ideological objection to it?
And it could very well be.
What's the new album about?
That's some segue. Oh.
Well, the new album, Fenian, is coming out on 24th of April. Of course, Fenian for a long time. Before this was a term for a warrior during folklore. And then in later years, it was used as a derogatory slur against nationalists and Catholics in the North of Ireland. So Fenian kind of represents this. We're kind of reclaiming the word Fenian. We're reclaiming the Irish language. We're reclaiming our Irish identity. Something that was maybe we felt ashamed about for a long time with colonisation. We felt like, as you know yourself, in Ireland, maybe there's a negative perception of the language. So this album is an attempt of kind of getting rid of that byproduct of colonisation and feeling pride about our language and about our culture and our identity. And so not just for Catholics or for any background, it's for the whole of Ireland, because it's the language of Ireland, and Ireland is a land of many people from all around the world, and everyone deserves to learn that language and to learn about the land that they're living in.
Let's bring it back to Cuba, which is obviously why you're there and in Havana. If, on the extreme off chance that Donald Trump is tuning into Channel 4 News, what is your message to him?
I think it's hard to reason with somebody like that, to be honest. I think if he had any kind of, heart, I mean, take it from us that we're here, and these people who, as he said, this is collective punishment he is putting on the Cuban people. These people are starving. They're not being, they don't have the correct availability to whatever medicine is needed. This is affecting newborns. This is affecting pregnant women. This embargo is going to have, a lot of repercussions for the Cuban people. I'm sure that's by design for Trump, so I'm sure he's not listening.
I'd love Trump to actually read a book. I don't know if he reads books, but read a book about Irish history and about the struggles of Ireland and colonisation, because we all went through the same similar processes that are happening in Cuba and happening in Palestine. So, I mean, I would maybe offer him a few suggestions of books, but I don't think he reads many books.
Well, go on then. And what would you recommend?
Oh, I recommend. Okay, let me see here. So, it's a good book on colonisation of Ireland. That's not Ireland. I mean, if you look at what's a good book now? Bandit Country is a good one, and on colonisation. I mean, there's a book called The View of Ireland, which is a book written from the perception of a coloniser and how they viewed Irish people as subpar, subhuman, and that's from the view of the coloniser. I mean, there's many books in Irish history that teaches us about the famine that we had here and the way they view people and how they weaponize. In Ireland, they weaponize food, they weaponize our resources to control the population, and that's where we see similarities of weaponizing things that people need, people's human rights. They're weaponizing everything. So there's many books. I'll think of the books and I'll send them on to you. And you can send them on the Trump.
Good man. Last question. I was reading. There's an Irish connection with Che Guevara, isn't there? On his father's maternal side, they're Lynches.
Yeah, she was called Lynch.
Lynch. Yeah, so there's long-standing connections there. I think was he in Ireland once?
Well, obviously Castro landed in Shannon Airport, and stuff. So he paid a flying visit to duty free.
No cigars in Shannon duty free. I'm afraid. I know for a fact.
He was absolutely devastated. He was.
Kneecap, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Yeah,